"What's a guy from the hood doing in my cage?" Tyler sneered, swaggering beneath the roaring lights of the Atlanta MMA arena. Sweat glistened on his shoulders as he paced, grinning for the cameras, certain he'd crush his opponent fast. Across from him stood Malik Johnson, quiet, composed, eyes steady and unreadable. To Tyler, he looked harmless, just another local from the streets lucky to share a spotlight. What he didn't know was that Malik had been forged in real battles, where mistakes cost lives, not trophies. The bell echoed once. 10 seconds later, Tyler lay silent on the canvas. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The arena pulsed like a living thing, 20,000 hearts beating to the rhythm of bass-heavy entrance music. Spotlights carved white circles through artificial fog as Tyler Viper Kane made his way down the long walkway to the cage. He wore a cheap metal chain around his neck, swinging it for the cameras, while his entourage howled with laughter. In the blue corner, Malik Johnson stood perfectly still. The familiar scent of Thai liniment filled his nostrils as Marcus, Aunt Evie's nephew, carefully wrapped his hands with white tape. Each turn of the wrapping was a meditation, a ritual passed down through gyms across generations. "You good, Uncle Malik?" Marcus whispered, smoothing the last strip between Malik's knuckles. Malik nodded once, eyes fixed on Tyler's theatrical display. The challenger was playing to the crowd, drawing cruel energy from those who mistook mockery for entertainment. Tyler grabbed the chain around his neck and pretended to struggle against it, his face twisted in an exaggerated grimace that made his supporters roar with approval. From his corner, Malik could see the older folks in the front rows, church deacons and community elders who'd helped fund his gym. Their faces were carved from stone, having seen this kind of display too many times before. But they were here, standing witness. That mattered. A camera crew circled Tyler as he approached the cage door. The microphones picked up his running commentary. "Gonna send this boy back to picking. You know what I mean?" He winked at the lens, voice dripping with fake Southern charm. "Ain't that right, Atlas? Time to shrug off them dreams, boy." Malik breathed deep and steady. He found Jamal's face in the crowd, his young protégé sitting bolt upright beside Aunt Evie. The boy's eyes were wide with tension, but when he caught Malik's gaze, he lifted his chin with fierce pride. That was what mattered, showing the next generation how to stand. The referee called both fighters to the center for final instructions. Tyler strutted forward, refusing to make eye contact with the official. Instead, he leaned close to Malik and whispered words the nearby cameras caught clearly. "After this, you can come clean my pool, if you ask nice." Malik's pulse remained steady. He'd learned long ago that hatred was just noise, and noise couldn't hurt you unless you let it in. He focused on his breathing, on the firm canvas beneath his feet, on the years of training that had brought him to this moment. The referee finished his instructions and asked them to touch gloves, a traditional show of respect. Tyler laughed and danced backward, playing to his corner. "Nah, I don't touch what I can't wash off." More laughter from his supporters, while others in the crowd began to boo. Malik returned to his corner where Marcus waited with the mouthguard. The younger man's hands were trembling slightly as he held it out. "Stay focused," Marcus whispered. "Just like the gym. Just like training." Malik nodded, fitting the mouthguard with practiced ease. Across the cage, Tyler was putting on a show for his corner, shadow boxing with exaggerated movement and calling out to his fans. The contrast between the fighters couldn't have been starker. One man trying to turn violence into circus, the other treating it with the gravity it deserved. The bell rang sharp and clean through the arena. Tyler immediately began bouncing on his toes, hands low, chin up. A fighter so convinced of his superiority that he'd abandoned basic defense. He circled the outer edge of the cage, pointing at Malik and mouthing words that didn't need to be heard to be understood. 20,000 voices merged into a wall of sound. "Fight! Fight! Fight!" Malik settled into his stance, shoulders dropping into perfect position, hands raised to protect his chin. Every muscle was relaxed but ready, every breath measured and full. He took a single step forward. Tyler's response was to stick out his tongue and slap his own thigh, like a man calling a dog. The disrespect was calculated, designed to provoke an emotional response. But Malik had spent years teaching young fighters that emotion was the enemy of technique. The crowd's chant grew louder, hungrier. Tyler moved in, still playing to the cameras, still believing this was all just entertainment. He didn't see what Malik's students would have recognized instantly. The slight shift in weight, the almost imperceptible angle of the back foot, the way Malik's eyes focused not on Tyler's face, but on the center of his chest, where all movement began. The first exchange exploded with the sudden fury of summer lightning. Tyler launched forward, all swagger and spectacle, while Malik remained centered in the eye of the storm, ready to answer showmanship with science. The first exchange came like a thunderclap. Tyler lunged forward with a wild overhand right, his form sloppy from overconfidence. The punch whistled past Malik's ear, finding nothing but air. In that split second, Tyler's eyes widened, the first flicker of doubt crossing his face as he realized his mistake. Malik moved with the fluid grace of long practice. He stepped inside Tyler's range, accepting the clinch as Tyler tried to recover his balance. Their bodies crashed together, and Malik's knee drove up sharp and precise into Tyler's ribs. The impact forced a grunt from Tyler's throat, more surprise than pain. They separated, Tyler backing up while trying to play off the hit. "Lucky shot," he sneered, but his voice had lost some of its cockiness. He circled left, pawing with his jab, no longer quite so willing to rush in blindly. The crowd's energy shifted, the bloodthirsty howls turning to murmurs of appreciation as they recognized the technical gulf between the fighters. Malik moved like water, each step deliberate, cutting off Tyler's escape angles without seeming to chase. Tyler threw a looping left hook, telegraphing the punch with a slight shoulder dip that Malik had surely seen in fight footage. Malik slipped it beautifully, letting the punch graze his shoulder before pivoting to land a clean counter to Tyler's liver. The shot was precise, designed to hurt without causing serious damage. "That all you got, boy?" Tyler shouted, but his face betrayed him. A thin sheen of sweat had broken out on his forehead, and his breathing was already labored. The constant movement, the missed punches, and Malik's bodywork were taking their toll. In the crowd, Jamal leaned forward in his seat, recognizing the setup. He'd seen Malik drill this combination 1,000 times in the gym, the way his coach would bait aggressive fighters into overcommitting, using their own momentum against them. Malik lowered his level slightly, a subtle shift that suggested he might be looking for a takedown. Tyler took the bait, dropping his hands to defend against the non-existent shot. That's when Malik struck. The left cross was a thing of terrible beauty. It traveled the shortest possible distance between 2 points, launched from Malik's perfect positioning. The punch carried the weight of years of training, of countless hours hitting pads and bags, of sparring sessions where every detail was refined to razor sharpness. The impact was audible even over the crowd noise, a sharp crack like a branch breaking in winter. Tyler's head snapped back, his body going stiff for a heartbeat before crumpling to the canvas. He fell flat, arms splayed, legs tangled beneath him. Referee Mark Heller jumped between them immediately, waving off the fight. The entire exchange, from first punch to finish, had taken just 10 seconds. The arena went completely silent. 20,000 people held their breath as medical staff rushed toward the fallen fighter. The quiet was so complete, you could hear the scuff of their shoes on canvas, the metallic rattle of their equipment. In the front row, Aunt Evie's lips moved in silent prayer, her worn hands clasped tight. Around her, the elders who'd witnessed decades of disrespect sat perfectly still, their faces unreadable masks. Malik didn't celebrate. Instead, he dropped to one knee beside his fallen opponent, checking Tyler's breathing with the careful attention of someone who understood the serious responsibility that came with such power. His face showed no triumph, no vindication, only professional concern. The medical team worked efficiently, their quiet voices carrying in the silent arena as they assessed Tyler's condition. Malik stood and backed away, giving them space to work. He walked to his corner with the same measured calm he'd shown throughout the fight. As he passed the camera closest to his corner, his voice was barely a whisper, but the microphone caught it clearly. That's what dignity sounds like. Marcus moved to unwrap Malik's hands, his own fingers trembling slightly with leftover adrenaline. In the ring, Tyler was beginning to stir, responding to the medic's questions. The silence started to break, replaced by scattered applause that grew steadily louder. Malik stood perfectly still as Marcus worked, his breathing already returned to normal. He watched the medical team help Tyler to a sitting position, noting the younger fighter's clear eyes and coordinated movements, signs that the knockout, while decisive, had caused no lasting damage. The overhead screens replayed the finish in slow motion. The feint, Tyler's defensive reaction, and the perfect mechanics of the fight-ending punch. Even at quarter speed, the execution was flawless. No wasted movement, no wild swinging, just clean technique delivered with surgical precision. In the front row, Jamal studied the replay intently, his young face serious with concentration. He'd seen that same combination in training, had thrown it countless times on the heavy bag under Malik's patient instruction. But seeing it executed at this level, on this stage, against someone who had tried to turn their sport into a platform for hatred, that was a lesson that went beyond technique. The arena's energy shifted as Malik made his way backstage, the crowd's reactions splitting like oil and water. Some fans stood, applauding with genuine respect, while others booed and hurled insults. Security guards flanked him, their presence more ritual than necessity given his composed demeanor. The concrete corridor felt cooler than the cage, the sounds of the crowd muffling as heavy doors swung shut behind them. Malik's footsteps echoed off the walls, his breathing still steady and controlled. Sweat cooled on his skin as he headed for the locker room, Aunt Evie's nephew Marcus walking slightly behind with their gear bag. Around a corner, voices carried from a service alcove, harsh whispers that didn't match the professional atmosphere of the venue. Malik slowed his pace, not meaning to eavesdrop, but caught by the urgency in the tones. "Fix this now," Rick Devlin's voice hissed, barely contained anger making it shake. "Do you understand what you just cost our sponsors?" The offshore numbers were clear. Referee Mark Heller's response was quieter, nervous. "What do you expect me to do?" It was clean. "Find something. Anything. That's what we pay you for, isn't it? Or should I remind certain people about your tab at the Golden Nugget?" Malik continued past without turning his head, but he caught their reflection in a wall-mounted monitor. Devlin's manicured hand gripping Heller's sleeve, the referee's face pale under the fluorescent lights. Marcus touched Malik's shoulder, a silent question in his eyes, but Malik just shook his head slightly. They'd been in the fight game long enough to know some battles weren't worth picking. The locker room door had barely closed behind them when a commission official burst in, clipboard in hand and looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Johnson, there's been a review of the finish." Malik was unwrapping his hands, the tape coming off in long strips. "Review? It was a clean knockout. The referee has identified an illegal strike to the back of the head. The result is being overturned to a no contest. The tape stopped unraveling. Malik's hands went still. That's impossible. He turned into it. The commission's decision is final. The official wouldn't meet his eyes. Mr. Kane is being transported to the hospital for observation, standard protocol for any head injury. The official result will reflect. Let me see the replay. Malik's voice was quiet, but carried an weight that made the official step back. I'm not authorized to. The replay. Malik stood, his full height making the small room feel even smaller. Now. The official fumbled with a tablet, pulling up the video feed. As it played on the screen mounted in the corner, the door opened again. A woman in her late 50s entered, press credential hanging around her neck, her gray hair cut in a no-nonsense style. Lorraine Park had been covering fights since before Malik started training, and her expression said she smelled a story. Mind if I watch too? She asked, though she was already positioning herself for a clear view. Her phone was recording, catching Malik's reaction as the footage played. The sequence unfolded in high definition. The feint, Tyler's head turning as he tried to avoid the punch. The impact that followed the exact line they drilled thousands of times in the gym. The strike landed clean on the jaw, nowhere near the back of the head. Through the open door, they could hear the announcement being made to the crowd. A mix of confusion and anger filtered down the corridor. On a stretcher being wheeled past, Tyler Kane caught Malik's eye and smirked. A quick flash of satisfaction before he remembered to wince for the cameras. This is what I'm seeing, Lorraine said clearly, her phone still recording. A technical fighter throws a clean punch. His opponent turns into it. A common defensive mistake. The impact is legal. The knockout, clear. Would you say that's accurate, Malik? Malik stood in front of the screen, watching the moment replay again and again. His face remained composed, but something in his eyes had hardened. He turned his head, he said quietly, each word precise and measured. That's boxing 101. You don't turn away from a punch. Every amateur knows that. The footage froze on the critical frame. Tyler's head beginning its turn, Malik's glove following a textbook arc, the moment just before impact captured in crystal clarity. It was the split second that would launch 1,000 arguments, freeze-framed for posterity. Lorraine's fingers moved across her phone's screen, already composing. 2 decades of covering combat sports had taught her to recognize the difference between normal controversy and something darker. The tension in the room, the official's refusal to make eye contact, the timing of the review, it all added up to a story that went beyond a disputed call. Marcus started packing their gear, his movements sharp with suppressed anger. The official backed toward the door, muttering about paperwork and protocols. But Malik just stood there, studying the frozen image like he was memorizing every pixel, every detail of the moment when victory became something else entirely. Lorraine's voice cut through the heavy silence. Mind if I quote you on that? About turning the head? Malik nodded once, his eyes still on the screen. The image remained unchanged. A perfect technical punch, a deliberate defensive error, and the beginning of a controversy that would spread far beyond the arena's walls. Dawn crept over Malik's gym, a modest brick building with faded lettering that read, Johnson Community Boxing. The morning light filtered through dusty windows, catching motes that danced in the quiet air. Malik had been there since 5 a.m., his normal routine unchanged despite the chaos brewing outside. His phone buzzed again, the 20th notification in as many minutes. Each vibration felt like another small tremor threatening to shake his foundation. Marcus, who'd stayed overnight to help clean up, handed him a cup of black coffee. You need to see this, Marcus said, holding up his own phone. The video playing on social media looked familiar, but wrong, like seeing your reflection in a warped mirror. Someone had taken footage of the knockout and doctored it, slowing certain frames while speeding up others. The editing made Malik's clean counterpunch appear to slide to the back of Tyler's head. A red circle appeared, highlighting the manipulated point of impact. 2 million views already, Marcus muttered, scrolling through the comments. They're calling it a sucker punch. Malik set down his coffee, untouched. Truth doesn't need editing. The gym's front door chimed as Jamal pushed it open, his school backpack slung over one shoulder. The teenager's face was tight with anger. They're lying about you all over the internet. Take your gear to the locker room, Malik said calmly. We'll work the heavy bag in 10. But before Jamal could move, more phones started ringing. Aunt Evie arrived just as Malik answered a call from their bank. Her church shoes clicked against the concrete floor as she watched his expression darken. What do you mean, frozen? Malik's voice remained level, but his free hand clenched. Those are operating funds. No, I understand liability investigation, but... He fell silent, listening. Aunt Evie didn't need to hear the other side of the conversation. She'd been running the gym's books long enough to know what financial strangulation looked like. While Malik talked, she pulled out her ledger and calculator, lips moving silently as she tallied up their obligations. Through the front windows, they could see a police cruiser pulling up. 2 officers stepped out, followed by a man in an expensive suit, clutching a leather briefcase. Here we go, Marcus muttered. The officers entered first, their expressions professionally neutral. Mr. Johnson, we have a summons to serve. The suited man, clearly a lawyer, stepped forward with papers. My client, Tyler Kane, is pressing charges for assault beyond the scope of sanctioned competition. Given the severity of his injuries... What injuries? Jamal burst out. He was smirking when they carried him out. Jamal. Malik's tone was quiet but firm. The teenager fell silent, though his fists remained clenched. The lawyer continued as if uninterrupted. We've also filed for an emergency injunction to freeze assets pending criminal and civil proceedings. Malik took the papers without comment, scanning them quickly before passing them to Aunt Evie. Her eyes narrowed as she read, years of church treasurer experience letting her cut through the legal language. Rick Devlin's letterhead, she noted. Not even trying to hide it. More phones buzzed. Marcus pulled up a news site where Devlin's PR team had been busy. Headlines screamed across the screen. Street Fighter assaults rising star, and illegal technique ends championship hopes. The morning light seemed dimmer now, as if the lies were physically darkening the air. Aunt Evie's calculator clicked steadily. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, equipment payments. Each button press felt like another nail. 3 weeks, she finally said. That's how long we can last with frozen accounts, if we're careful. The police and lawyer left, their job done. Jamal stood by the speed bag, his young face struggling to process the injustice. But everyone saw what happened. The whole arena saw. Sometimes seeing isn't enough, Malik said, moving to stand beside his student. People see what they're told to see. Our job is to show them what's true. The day crawled by. Regular members trickled in, offering support, but also asking worried questions about whether their memberships would be affected. Malik trained them all as usual, his voice steady as he called out combinations. But with each passing hour, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. As evening approached, the lights flickered once, twice, then died. The gym plunged into semi-darkness, lit only by what little sunset made it through the windows. The power company hadn't waited for the grace period to end. In the deepening shadows, Malik moved to the center of the main floor. His hands wrapped out of habit. He began to shadow box. The whisper of his feet on the floor and the soft snap of punches cutting air were the only sounds. Jamal sat on the ring steps, watching his mentor move through the gloom. Aunt Evie stood in the office doorway, her ledger clutched to her chest like armor. Through the window, they could see Lorraine Park in her car, speaking into a microphone for her podcast. Her voice carried faintly through the walls. When power cuts out, that's when you see who's still standing. Malik's shadow danced across the darkened walls, each movement precise and controlled. A man shadowboxing against forces far larger than himself. The gym might be dark, but his form remained perfect, a testament to everything he'd built, everything they were trying to take away. The sun hadn't fully risen when Malik backed his pickup truck to the gym's side door. The metal loading ramp clanked against the curb as he lowered it. Inside the dark building, he could barely make out the shapes of equipment they'd need. "Pass me that speed bag mount," he called to Marcus, who had shown up early to help. They worked steadily, moving gear into the growing dawn light. Heavy bags, jump ropes, timer bells, and worn boxing gloves. The parking lot's cracked asphalt became their new training floor. Malik swept it clean, marking spaces with chalk where the equipment would go. The routine helped quiet his mind, pushing back thoughts of frozen accounts and legal papers. "Need a place to rest these old bones while I watch?" Malik turned to find Mrs. Watson from the church, carrying a folding chair and a thermos. Behind her, other neighborhood elders appeared like a quiet parade. Mr. Thompson, who'd been coming to watch training sessions for years, brought 3 chairs stacked in his arms. Miss Gloria rolled up in her motorized scooter, a cardboard tray of coffee cups balanced carefully on her lap. "Y'all didn't have to come," Malik said, but his voice caught slightly. "Child, please." Mrs. Watson set up her chair with practiced efficiency. "We've been watching young folks train here since before you were born. No locked door gonna change that." They arranged their chairs in a semicircle, creating an outdoor audience space. The morning air filled with the smell of coffee and the soft murmur of their conversations. Some brought Bibles, planning to read between watching the training. Jamal arrived next, his school backpack stuffed with hand wraps and his old gloves. His cast from the previous night's assault stood out starkly white against his dark skin. Without being asked, he started preparing equipment for the younger kids who would come later. "Can't punch with this," he said, holding up his cast. "But I can still teach what you taught me." More community members drifted in. Parents dropped off kids on their way to work, relieved to find the gym still operating, even if outdoors. A few brought donuts or fruit, turning the morning into something between a training session and a church social. Lorraine Park's hybrid car pulled up quietly. She got out with her recording equipment, moving through the growing crowd with practiced ease. Her microphone caught snippets of conversation, the sound of gloves hitting pads, the laughter of kids skipping rope. "They thought darkness would stop this light," Mrs. Watson told Lorraine's microphone, gesturing at the gathering. "But we've been having church in fields before we had buildings." Same principle. Malik was demonstrating footwork to a group of teenagers when a black SUV parked across the street. Sandra Ruiz, chair of the State Athletic Commission, stepped out. She waited until Malik finished his lesson before approaching. "This is off the record," she said quietly, nodding to Lorraine, who lowered her microphone. "But something's wrong in my department." "The override on your victory. That came from pressure I can't trace yet. Keep teaching. Keep documenting. I'll keep looking." She left as discreetly as she'd arrived, but her visit lifted spirits further. Malik returned to teaching, showing a young girl how to pivot properly. "Boxing isn't about hitting," he explained, demonstrating the movement. "It's about balance. About staying steady when forces try to knock you down." The morning grew warmer. Someone brought a portable radio, and gospel music mixed with the rhythm of jump ropes slapping pavement. Jamal moved between groups of kids, adjusting stances and offering encouragement. His cast became a badge of resilience rather than injury. "Remember," he told a nervous boy, "Mr. Malik says fear is just energy waiting to be used right. Lorraine captured it all. The determined faces, the supportive community, the dignity in defiance. She interviewed elderly residents who remembered when the gym first opened, parents whose kids found direction in its programs, teenagers who spoke about Malik's impact on their lives. "They can cut the lights," said Miss Gloria into Lorraine's microphone, "but they can't cut the light in these children's eyes when they master a new skill." As noon approached, more chairs appeared. Someone strung up a tarp for shade. The parking lot had transformed into an outdoor classroom, a community center, a statement of persistence. Malik watched it all between lessons, his quiet pride showing in subtle ways. A nod to the elders, a pat on a student's shoulder, a small smile at particularly good combinations. Every so often, his eyes moved to the dark gym building, but the life flourishing outside seemed to answer any doubts. In her car, Lorraine pieced together her footage. Her fingers moved quickly over her laptop keyboard as she crafted the story. The title came naturally. Grace Under Hate, Community Rises as Gym Goes Dark. She included clips of children learning, elders teaching life lessons between rounds, and Malik's steady presence through it all. The final shot showed the whole scene from above. A vibrant circle of activity in a parking lot, proof that community couldn't be locked out or shut down. Within hours of posting, her notification bar began filling with messages. Small donations appeared in the defense fund she'd mentioned, $5, $20, whatever people could spare. Each contribution came with messages of support. Keep teaching. Stay strong. We see the truth. The afternoon sun beat down on the pavement as another group of kids arrived for their lesson. Malik adjusted the tarp for better shade, then returned to the chalk circle he'd drawn for footwork drills. The sound of boxing timers and gospel music drifted out over the neighborhood, a rhythm of resistance, a beat of hope. 2 days after the parking lot revival, Malik pushed a shopping cart through Kroger's fluorescent-lit aisles. The wheels squeaked as he checked his list: granola bars, juice boxes, fresh fruit. The kids needed fuel for training, and the outdoor sessions burned more energy than usual. "Let's split up," he told Jamal, who'd come to help carry bags. "You grab the apples and bananas. I'll get the protein bars." The store was quiet for a Wednesday afternoon. Malik's footsteps echoed on the polished floor as he read nutrition labels, calculating servings per dollar. A mother with 2 small children smiled as she passed. She'd brought them to watch training yesterday. The peace shattered when Tyler Kane's voice boomed through the aisle. "Well, look who it is! The cheap shot king himself!" Malik turned slowly. Tyler stood at the end of the aisle, phone held high, live streaming. A white bandage wrapped his neck dramatically, though medical reports had shown no serious injury. 2 friends flanked him, also filming. "Nothing to say." Tyler advanced, performing for his online audience. "You're real tough when you're hitting people from behind." Malik kept his voice level. "There's security footage of the fight. The strike was clean." "Clean?" Tyler's laugh was sharp, theatrical. "That why they took your win away? That why you're teaching kids in a parking lot now?" Other shoppers stopped to watch. Phones appeared, recording the confrontation. Malik noticed an elderly couple backing away, probably remembering similar scenes from darker decades. "The footage shows exactly what happened," Malik said. "You turned your head after the punch was thrown. That's why. Shows you're scared to face me straight up." Tyler stepped closer, playing to his growing online audience. "Had to sneak one in, right? That's what you teach those kids?" Jamal appeared at the end of the aisle, arms full of fruit. His eyes widened at the scene. "Put it down, kid," Tyler called out. "Your teacher here needs to explain himself." "Leave him out of this," Malik said quietly. But Tyler was already moving toward Jamal, camera aimed at the teenager's face. "Tell us, kid." He teach you all his dirty tricks? Mr. Malik teaches us respect, Jamal said, standing his ground. And technique, the kind that put you to sleep fair and square. Tyler's face darkened. He shoved Jamal hard, sending apples scattering across the floor. The boy stumbled, but caught himself against a display. Malik's hands tightened, but he kept them at his sides. The watching phones recorded his stillness, his measured breath. Let me explain the technique, he said clearly, drawing Tyler's attention back. You dropped your right hand after throwing wild. Basic counter-striking. We drill it every day. Your head movement was poor, leaving the jaw exposed. The left cross landed clean before you turned away. He demonstrated the sequence in slow motion, without throwing actual punches. His movements were precise, educational. See, there's no mystery, no cheap shots. Just fundamentals you forgot while playing to the crowd. Tyler's face reddened. This wasn't giving him the clip he wanted. You trying to give me lessons? In a grocery store? I'm trying to show you respect, Malik replied, by explaining exactly what happened. The same respect I show my students, my community, and every opponent. Win or lose. A small crowd had gathered. Their phones captured Tyler's increasing agitation against Malik's steady calm. Someone was already uploading. You think you're better than me? Tyler stepped into Malik's space. Some kind of holy man? I bet you're just scared to throw down right here. I'm a teacher, Malik said. Right now, I'm teaching that strength isn't about who can shove the hardest. It's about who can stand the straightest. He turned to Jamal, who was picking up scattered fruit. You okay? The boy nodded, his earlier fear replaced by pride in his mentor's composure. Then let's finish shopping. These kids need their snacks. Malik calmly returned to his cart, placed his protein bars inside, and moved toward the checkout. The gathered crowd parted to let him through, phones still recording. Tyler called after him, "This ain't over. You hear me?" "It was over in 10 seconds, an old woman in the crowd muttered, drawing nervous laughter. Within an hour, multiple angles of the confrontation hit social media. Lorraine Park's blog picked up the story immediately. Her measured voice played over the footage. Dignity isn't silence. It's choosing where to swing. Today, in an Atlanta grocery store, Malik Johnson demonstrated that the hardest hits don't always come from fists. The clips spread rapidly. Malik's patient explanation of the technique, his protection of his student, his refusal to escalate. Comments poured in from professional fighters and coaches, breaking down the original knockout footage, confirming Malik's technical analysis. But it was the quiet moments that went viral. Malik helping Jamal gather the spilled apples, the gentle way he placed them in the cart, his straight back as he walked away from provocation. Each new share added to a portrait of composure under pressure. By evening, the Defense Fund saw another surge of small donations. Local businesses offered to sponsor outdoor equipment. A retired judge volunteered legal services. In the parking lot gym, Malik didn't mention the incident. He just taught his evening classes, demonstrated combinations, and reminded his students that true power comes from control. The sun had set, but Lorraine Park's converted garage office blazed with fluorescent light. 3 monitors cluttered her desk, each displaying different financial records. Coffee cups formed a cemetery of caffeine across the workspace. The police scanner crackled quietly in the corner, a habit she'd kept from her newspaper days. Lorraine squinted at spreadsheets, her reading glasses slipping down her nose. "Look at this," she said, tapping her screen. "These betting patterns make no sense." Malik leaned over her shoulder, the smell of gym chalk still clinging to his shirt. He'd come straight from the parking lot training session. "What are we seeing?" "Money movement. Lots of it." Lorraine pulled up a timeline. "See these spikes? Massive bets placed through offshore accounts, all within minutes of your knockout being overturned. Aunt Evie settled into a creaking office chair, her church choir folder still in her lap. In English, please. Some of us handle real books, not computer ones. Lorraine smiled. Someone knew the knockout would be ruled invalid before it happened. They bet accordingly. She pointed to a series of transactions. These accounts dumped money against you winning right before referee Heller made his call. How much money? Malik asked. Nearly $500,000. Lorraine typed rapidly, bringing up corporate registries. All through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. But look at this. They all trace back to a holding company called RD Enterprises. RD, Aunt Evie repeated. Rick Devlin. Exactly. Lorraine opened another window. He's not as clever as he thinks. Use the same lawyer who handles his gym licenses to set up the offshore accounts. Sandra Ruiz, who'd slipped in quietly through the side door, stepped into the light. Her business suit looked out of place among the filing cabinets and old newspaper clippings. This is bigger than we thought. Madam Commissioner. Lorraine nodded. Glad you could make it. Had to be careful. Sandra glanced at the covered windows. I was followed twice this week. They're watching commission members who voted to review the case. Malik's jaw tightened. They're that worried about one overturned fight? It's not just the fight. Sandra pulled out her phone, showing emails. Devlin's tentacles run deep. He's got judges on payroll, betting syndicates in 3 states. If this unravels, she shook her head, the whole commission could collapse. Aunt Evie snorted. Maybe it needs to. You don't understand. Sandra paced the small space. We're talking about every major fight in the state for the past 5 years. Championships, title shots, television contracts. If the commission's credibility dies, so does legitimate fighting in Georgia. Lorraine was still typing. Found something else. Heller, your referee. His house was in foreclosure last year. Suddenly the bank gave him a miracle extension. Guess who sits on the bank's board? Devlin, Malik said quietly. Through another shell company. Lorraine pushed back from her desk. But here's the real problem. We can prove the corruption, but publishing it burns everyone. Clean officials, dirty ones, the whole system. Sandra nodded grimly. Years of legitimate fights would be questioned. Every decision, every ranking. Careers would end. Gyms would close. The sport itself could die in this state. My gym's already dying, Malik said, while we worry about protecting a broken system. Aunt Evie reached for his hand. Truth's got a cost, baby. Always has. The police scanner crackled. Traffic stops, domestic calls. The city's normal rhythm continued outside while they sat with this powder keg of evidence. There might be a way, Sandra said slowly. If we could isolate Devlin, prove this specific fight was compromised without exposing the broader pattern. Half measures, Lorraine interrupted. I've been doing this 30 years. Corruption doesn't die from small cuts. You have to rip it out completely. Malik stood, his shadow stretching across Lorraine's evidence wall. Photos, documents, betting receipts. All these papers, all these secrets. While kids train in a parking lot because someone decided truth was too expensive. The commission does good work, too, Sandra protested. We protect fighters, set safety standards. Without us, without you, we're exactly where we are now. Malik's voice stayed level, but carried steel. My license suspended, my gym dark, a corrupt promoter using racism to sell tickets and fix fights. Aunt Evie started humming. Amazing Grace, her worry song. The tune filled the small space as they all considered the weight of their next move. Lorraine broke the silence. I can have the story ready in 48 hours. But Sandra's right. It burns everything. The commission, the rankings, years of fights. There's no small version of this explosion. Sandra stood straighter, smoothing her blazer. If we expose this, the whole state commission burns. Every fight, Every official, every decision becomes suspect. Is that what you want? Malik met her eyes. His voice was quiet but firm. Then, let it burn. I'll light it myself if I have to. Morning light streamed through the stained glass windows of Bethel AME Church, painting rainbow patterns across the wooden pews. Aunt Evie fussed with the projector setup, her Sunday best offsetting the technical equipment. The congregation filtered in slowly, filling the air with whispered greetings and the rustle of program papers. Sister Johnson, you sure about this? Deacon Williams helped her adjust the screen angle. Church ain't usually for fight videos. Truth is for everywhere, Aunt Evie replied, her fingers moving deliberately over the laptop borrowed from the youth ministry. Besides, ain't we supposed to be a refuge? Malik sat in the back pew, uncomfortable in his pressed shirt and tie. Jamal fidgeted beside him, his cast decorated with signatures from the parking lot training sessions. Sandra Ruiz had slipped in quietly, choosing an inconspicuous spot near the side door. Her presence spoke volumes about the morning's importance. Pastor Green approached the pulpit as the organ's final notes faded. Brothers and sisters, before our regular service, we have a matter of justice to address. He nodded to Aunt Evie. Sister Johnson? Aunt Evie stood, her voice carrying that choir-trained authority. Most of you know my nephew Malik. Most of you know what they did to him. But Brother Marcus here, she gestured to a thin man in the third row, he caught something they didn't want seen. Marcus stood, holding up his phone. I was ringside, filming for my daughter. She couldn't make the fight. Never stopped recording, not even during the confusion after. The church lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life, throwing a clear image onto the screen. The footage started shaky but steadied as it captured the fight's crucial moment. There was no commentary, no editing, just raw video from an angle the official cameras hadn't shown. The congregation watched in complete silence as the sequence unfolded. Tyler's wild rush, Malik's defensive stance, the counterpunch landing clean on the jaw, definitively legal, definitively not to the back of the head. Tyler falling, the 10 seconds of silence that followed. Frame by frame, Aunt Evie announced, working the controls. The footage played again in slow motion. No illegal strike, no back of the head, just clean technique and the truth. Sandra Ruiz stood up, her legal pad already in hand. Mr. Marcus, would you be willing to testify to the authenticity of this footage at a commission hearing? Already notarized it this morning before service, Marcus replied. My daughter's a lawyer, too. Within hours, the commission convened an emergency session. The hearing room buzzed with tension as Malik's legal team presented the footage. Rick Devlin sat in the back, his usual smile replaced by a tight-lipped glare. He'd cornered 2 commissioners in the hallway earlier, his whispered threats carrying just far enough to be heard. The video evidence is conclusive, Sandra announced from the chairman's seat. The strike was legal. The subsequent ruling of no contest is hereby overturned. She fixed Devlin with a steel gaze. Furthermore, this commission will launch a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the original decision. Devlin stood up, straightening his expensive jacket. This is a farce. That footage could be doctored. We have protocols. Sit down, Mr. Devlin, Sandra cut him off. Unless you'd like to explain the betting patterns we've uncovered as well? The color drained from Devlin's face. He sat. Sandra continued, The commission rules unanimously. Malik Johnson's victory stands. His license is reinstated immediately. All associated charges are dismissed. She turned to the court recorder. Please note that we are also recommending a criminal investigation into potential fight fixing and fraud. Back at the gym that afternoon, the parking lot transformed into an impromptu celebration. Folding chairs gave way to folding tables laden with food. Someone had strung Christmas lights between the poles of the outdoor boxing ring. The smell of barbecue mixed with summer air as the community gathered. Jamal helped younger kids practice combinations, his cast not stopping him from teaching footwork. Aunt Evie directed the food distribution with the same precision she used for choir arrangements. Church members mingled with gym regulars, sharing plates and stories. "Look at this," Lorraine said, showing Malik her latest blog post on her tablet. Views are climbing. People are sharing the unedited footage. The truth's got legs now. Malik watched his community celebrate. An old-timer was teaching kids to double dutch between the heavy bags. 2 deacons had set up a chess table near the speed bag station. Music drifted from someone's portable speaker, gospel mixing with hip-hop in a uniquely Atlanta harmony. "Bank called," Aunt Evie announced, joining them with a plate of ribs. "Funds are unfrozen. Bills can get paid tomorrow." Sandra appeared with a cold drink, her suit jacket finally off in the Georgia heat. "Commission's already received 3 other reports of suspicious rulings. Seems your case broke the dam." "Sometimes that's all it takes," Lorraine said, typing on her phone. "One clear picture. One unedited truth." She showed them her latest post. Sometimes redemption plays in 1080p. The celebration continued as the sun began to set, the Christmas lights twinkling brighter against the darkening sky. Children practiced their shadow boxing, their movements casting long, hopeful shapes across the parking lot. The smell of barbecue lingered in the warm air, mixing with laughter and fragments of hymns. Neighborhood elders told stories of past struggles and victories, their voices carrying wisdom across generations. The gym's lights blazed bright again, the interior visible through the open doors where new students were already signing up for tomorrow's classes. As evening settled in, the parking lot celebration took on a magical quality. The Christmas lights twinkled against the darkening sky, creating halos around the makeshift dance floor where Aunt Evie was teaching younger kids the electric slide. Her laughter carried across the lot, mixing with the music from portable speakers. Jamal held court near the outdoor ring, his cast now covered in fresh signatures from the party. He demonstrated footwork to a group of wide-eyed kids, moving smoothly despite his injury. "See? It's like a beat," he explained, tapping out a rhythm with his feet. 1, 2, slide, then boom. You're out of trouble. "But what if they're bigger?" a small boy asked, barely tall enough to reach the lowest rope. "Then you're smarter," Jamal replied, demonstrating a dodge. "That's what Coach Malik always says. Smart beats strong every time." The smell of barbecue smoke drifted through the warm air as church ladies manned the grills, arguing good-naturedly about secret sauce recipes. Deacon Williams had set up chessboards on card tables, teaching strategy to teenagers between bites of potato salad. The whole scene felt like a block party mixed with a family reunion. Malik stood at the edge of it all, taking in the sight of his community whole and healing. Sandra Ruiz had loosened her tie and rolled up her sleeves, deep in conversation with Lorraine about commission reform. Church elders shared plates of cobbler with gym regulars, swapping stories about Atlanta's changing neighborhoods. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The number wasn't local. "This is Malik Johnson," he answered, stepping away from the music. "Mr. Johnson, Jack Martinez from National Fight Productions." The voice was crisp, professional. "Got a minute to talk business?" Malik moved further from the crowd, finding a quiet spot near the gym's side door. "I'm listening." "That church footage is everywhere. Clean shot, clean win. The public's demanding a proper rematch." Martinez paused. "We want to make it right. Primetime slot, neutral venue, full promotional push." "I'm not interested in circus shows," Malik replied. "No circus. This is about legacy." Papers rustled on Martinez's end. "We're offering a 7-figure purse. Winner's share goes to fund youth centers across Georgia. Full transparency on officiating. Your choice of corners." Malik watched Jamal demonstrating jabs to the kids, his cast not slowing his enthusiasm. He thought about all the other Jamals in other neighborhoods, looking for somewhere safe to learn and grow. "The commission?" Malik asked. Sandra Ruiz helped draft the contract. Every rule spelled out, every official vetted. Tyler's already agreed to the terms. Through the gym's open door, Malik could see the wall of photos. Fighters who'd trained here, kids who'd found their way. His father's old boxing gloves hung in a place of honor, still protecting dreams after all these years. "Send me the paperwork," Malik said. "My lawyer reviews everything first. You'll have it within the hour." Martinez sounded pleased. "This is going to be huge, Mr. Johnson. A real chance to change things." Malik ended the call and rejoined the celebration. Aunt Evie had graduated from electric slide to soul train, a line of dancers snaking through the parking lot. The Christmas lights cast moving shadows as people laughed and stepped in time. "Good news?" Lorraine asked, notebook already in hand. "Could be." Malik accepted a plate of food from a church lady who wouldn't take no for an answer. "National Promotion wants to do it right this time." Before Lorraine could press for details, phones started buzzing throughout the crowd. Tyler had posted a video, his face still showing traces of the first fight. "Round 2, Atlas," he sneered into the camera. "This time no cheap shots, just pain. Let's see how you handle real pressure under those bright lights." The video ended with Tyler shadow boxing, each punch thrown with theatrical menace. Comments were already flooding in, split between those calling for blood and those calling for justice. Jamal limped over, his phone out. "You gonna shut him up again, coach?" "Better." Malik smiled. "We're gonna teach him." The party continued around them, but with a new energy, anticipation mixing with determination. Aunt Evie led another line dance, this one moving like a victory march. Sandra and Lorraine huddled with local activists, already planning coverage angles. The chess players discussed strategy with new intensity. Inside the gym, Malik found a quiet moment. He took down his father's old fight photo. Young man in boxing stance, fists raised against a world that didn't want him to win. The picture had hung there so long the wall behind it was lighter than the rest. Malik pulled a fresh thumbtack from Aunt Evie's office supply drawer. He moved the photo higher, more prominent now, where everyone coming through the door would see it. His father's eyes seemed to watch the room, guarding all the dreams stored in this space. "This time, we finish it right," Malik said to the photo, touching the frame once before heading back to the celebration. The party stretched into the night, stars competing with Christmas lights. Jamal taught combinations to a new group of kids, their shadows sharp against the parking lot pavement. Aunt Evie's voice rose above the music, leading a chorus of amens and laughter. The Marriott conference room felt sterile and cold, all beige walls and fluorescent lighting. Malik sat straight back in an uncomfortable chair, studying the contract spread across the polished table. His lawyer, Mrs. Chen, flipped through the pages with careful fingers, while Rick Devlin lounged across the table, playing with his gold watch. "Everything's standard," Devlin said, his smile too wide. "Just need your signature, and we can start promoting the biggest rematch Atlanta's ever seen." Aunt Evie stood behind Malik's chair like a sentinel, her church hat casting a shadow over the paperwork. She'd insisted on coming, saying she didn't trust Devlin's smile. "Any further than I could throw him." Mrs. Chen's finger stopped on page 17. Her face tightened. "Mr. Johnson, there's something here you need to see." Malik leaned forward as she pointed to a dense paragraph buried in the contract's middle. The language was technical, but its meaning was clear. The fight would use Devlin's choice of referee and venue. If Malik refused these terms or withdrew from the match, he'd forfeit his gym as collateral. "You can't be serious." Malik said, looking up at Devlin. Just ensuring commitment from both parties. Devlin spread his hands. Tyler's already signed. He's very eager to prove the first fight was irregular. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Malik could feel his heartbeat in his temples, slow and steady like a countdown. This is predatory, Mrs. Chen said. The commission won't. The commission has already approved the terms. Devlin's smile didn't waver. Sandra Ruiz herself signed off this morning. Something about political realities. Aunt Evie's hand squeezed Malik's shoulder. He could feel her trembling with anger, but her voice stayed level. The Lord sees everything you do, Mr. Devlin. Every single thing. Then he'll see a fair fight. Devlin stood, straightening his tie. You have 24 hours to decide, Mr. Johnson. Sign and get your shot at redemption, or forfeit and lose everything you've built. Simple business. Malik remained seated as Devlin strutted out. The contract seemed to pulse on the table, its words like poison on the page. We're not signing this, Mrs. Chen said. There has to be another way. There's always another way, Aunt Evie agreed. The Lord doesn't close doors without opening windows. Malik gathered the papers slowly, his mind already calculating angles and options. The gym's mortgage, the kids' programs, the community that depended on that space, all of it hanging by a thread. They rode the elevator down in silence. The hotel lobby was quiet, just a few business travelers wheeling suitcases across marble floors. Outside, the evening air had turned cool, carrying the first hint of fall. I'll start research tonight, Mrs. Chen said, tucking the contract into her briefcase. There might be precedent for challenging these terms. Do it, Malik nodded. But quietly. We don't want... His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered, hearing panicked breathing. Coach? It was Marcus, one of his teenage fighters. You gotta come quick. It's Jamal. They jumped him at the bus stop. Malik's world narrowed to a tunnel. Where? Ponce and Highland. He's hurt bad, Coach. They broke something. Malik was running before Marcus finished speaking. Aunt Evie called after him, but her words were lost in the rush of blood in his ears. The bus stop was 6 blocks away. He covered it in minutes, his dress shoes slapping against concrete. The scene hit him like a body shot. Jamal sat on the curb, cradling his right arm. Blood dripped from his nose onto his favorite Hawks jersey. Marcus stood guard nearby, holding Jamal's scattered backpack and phone. 2 guys, Jamal said through gritted teeth. Masks. They came from behind the shelter. Did you see? Nothing. But one of them. Jamal winced as Malik gently examined his wrist. He said Viper sends love before they ran. A police cruiser arrived, lights flashing. Then an ambulance. Aunt Evie appeared somehow, taking charge of the scene with church lady authority. She handled the cops while Malik rode with Jamal to Atlanta General. The emergency room was packed, but Jamal's broken wrist got them in quickly. X-rays confirmed what they already knew, a clean break that would need 6 weeks in a cast. The doctor mentioned lucky several times. It could have been worse. While they waited for the cast to set, Jamal's mother arrived. She hugged her son, then turned on Malik with fury in her eyes. This fighting life, she said. It's nothing but trouble. Nothing but pain. Mom, it wasn't Coach's fault, Jamal protested. Those guys were waiting. They knew my route. Exactly. She paced the small exam room. They knew, because you're part of this now. This whole mess with that fighter and his people. Malik stood by the window, watching ambulances come and go in the darkness. Each flash of their lights illuminated his reflection. The careful calm he always maintained now cracking at the edges. Jamal caught his eye in the glass. I'm not quitting, Coach. This just proves they're scared. The nurse returned with casting materials in Jamal's chosen color. Gym blue. As she worked, Malik pulled a chair close to the bed. He took Jamal's good hand, feeling the teenager's fingers grip tight. "They think I'll break before bell time," Malik said quietly. "They're wrong." The morning sun crept through the gym's windows, casting long shadows across the empty mats. Malik stood at his office desk, staring at the contract that seemed to mock him with each passing second. The sound of the front door opening made him look up. Jamal walked in, his right arm in a blue sling that matched the gym's colors. Dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept much. Neither had Malik. "Shouldn't you be resting?" Malik asked, his voice gentle. "Can't sleep anyway." Jamal shrugged his good shoulder. "Mom's been crying all night. Keeps saying I should quit." Malik pulled out a chair for him. The metal scraped against the floor, echoing in the quiet gym. "Maybe she's right. Don't you start, too." Jamal's face hardened. This is exactly what they want. Before Malik could respond, Aunt Evie bustled in carrying her oversized purse and a Tupperware container. The smell of her famous cornbread filled the small office. "Lord have mercy, you both look like you've been hit by a truck." She set the container down and pulled up another chair. "When's the last time either of you ate?" Neither answered. Aunt Evie clicked her tongue and started unpacking breakfast. Her movements were precise, but Malik could see the worry in her eyes. "I'm thinking of forfeiting," Malik said quietly. The cornbread container hit the desk with a sharp crack. "Like hell you are." "Aunt Evie." "Don't you Aunt Evie me." She planted her hands on her hips. "You don't leave the ring. Make them leave the table. That's what your daddy always said." They broke Jamal's wrist. Malik's voice cracked slightly. "What's next? The gym's one thing, but these kids are stronger than you think," she cut in. "And they're watching you. Every single one of them. What you do next teaches them more than any boxing lesson." The door chimed again. Lorraine Park walked in, carrying her laptop bag and what looked like radio equipment. Her face was tight with determination. "Good. You're both here." She pulled up the last chair and opened her bag. "We need to talk strategy." "Lorraine," Malik started. "No, you listen." She pulled out a small device that looked like a button. "This is a high-quality microphone. Completely undetectable. Records straight to a secure cloud server." Jamal leaned forward, interested despite his sling. "Like in spy movies?" "Better." Lorraine smiled grimly. "Because this is real. Sandra Ruiz called me last night. She can't help officially, but she's arranged to monitor the feed live from her office during all meetings with Devlin." "That's dangerous for her position," Malik said. "She knows." Lorraine's eyes were hard. "But she's tired of watching good people get crushed by corrupt systems. We all are." Aunt Evie picked up the microphone, examining it carefully. "How do we know they won't detect it?" "State-of-the-art tech. Used by actual investigative journalists in war zones." Lorraine pulled out more equipment. "We'll test it today. Make sure the signal's clear." Malik watched them plan, his heart heavy with responsibility. The sun had climbed higher, throwing light across the gym floor where kids should have been training by now. Instead, the mats were empty, the heavy bags still. "What if it makes things worse?" he asked finally. "Worse than a broken wrist?" Jamal held up his sling. "Worse than them trying to take everything you built?" "Sometimes," Aunt Evie said softly, "you have to risk the fight to win the war." They spent the next hour testing the equipment. Lorraine showed them how the microphone could be sewn into a shirt collar or hidden in a tie clip. The sound quality was crystal clear, picking up even whispered conversations. "Sandra will be listening live," Lorraine explained, "recording everything. If Devlin or his people slip up even once—" "When," Aunt Evie corrected. "Not if. Pride always trips them up eventually." Around noon, more kids started showing up for their regular classes. They gathered around Jamal, signing his cast, their young faces a mix of anger and determination. Malik watched them from his office, remembering why he'd started this gym in the first place. "They're not just learning to fight," Aunt Evie said, following his gaze. "They're learning to stand up. Big difference." Malik nodded slowly. He walked to the small bathroom attached to his office, staring at himself in the mirror. His reflection looked tired but unbeaten. Carefully, he began wrapping his hands, the familiar ritual bringing focus. "Round 1 starts before the bell," he whispered, the white gauze winding between his fingers. The wrapping technique his father had taught him years ago. Over, under, around each knuckle. Protection and power working together. Behind him, he could hear Lorraine and Aunt Evie discussing timing and signals, Jamal adding his thoughts despite his injury. The morning light had turned sharp and clear, cutting across the gym floor like truth itself. Outside, a few elderly neighbors had already set up their folding chairs, keeping watch like guardian angels in sun hats and church clothes. Malik finished wrapping his right hand, flexing his fingers slowly. The gauze was tight, but not restricting, just like his father had shown him. In the mirror, he could see Jamal watching him, the boy's good hand unconsciously mimicking the wrapping motion. Through the window, more kids were arriving for afternoon classes. Some carried signs they'd made. "Atlas stands for us," and "Can't stop, won't stop." Their parents stood nearby, arms crossed, faces set with the same determination Malik felt growing in his chest. The arena's backstage area hummed with tension. Camera crews jostled for position as Malik walked through the metal detector, his shirt collar concealing Lorraine's microphone. The security guard waved him through with a practiced motion. Aunt Evie stood nearby, her Bible clutched tight against her chest. She'd insisted on coming, saying she needed to keep prayer close to the proceedings. But Malik knew she was there to witness everything, her sharp eyes missing nothing. The weigh-in area buzzed with reporters and photographers. Their flashes created a constant strobe effect that made the room feel smaller than it was. Malik spotted Rick Devlin in his signature cheap suit, phone pressed to his ear as he paced near the scale. "Look who finally showed up." Tyler's voice cut through the noise. He was already shirtless, his abs gleaming with oil, a mock chain draped around his neck again. "Thought you might chicken out after what happened to your boy." Malik kept his face neutral, though his jaw tightened slightly. He could feel the microphone pressing against his collarbone, reminding him to stay focused. "Strip down, champ," the commission doctor called out. "Let's get this done." As Malik removed his shirt, Tyler started a new round of taunts. "Make sure you check him for weapons. You know how these thugs like to pack heat." Cameras clicked rapidly. Malik stepped onto the scale, eyes forward. 185.5, the official announced. "Legal? Bet that's the first legal thing he's done all year," Tyler sneered, drawing nervous laughs from his entourage. In the corner, Lorraine pretended to check her phone while adjusting her recording equipment. She gave Malik an almost imperceptible nod. The feed was working. Devlin's voice carried clearly as he continued his phone conversation. No, everything's set. Heller knows the score." He walked closer to where Malik stood. "Trust me, the odds are locked. We've got this under control." Tyler bounded onto the scale next, flexing for the cameras. 186 even, called the official. "See that?" Tyler grinned. "I make weight clean, unlike some people who probably had to spit out their gold teeth." Malik remained silent, his stillness making Tyler's antics seem increasingly desperate. Several reporters shifted uncomfortably, their pens hesitating over notepads. "What's wrong, Atlas?" Tyler pressed, stepping into Malik's space. "Cottonmouth got your tongue?" Aunt Evie made a small sound of disgust, but Malik's expression didn't change. He could see Devlin still on his phone, now speaking in more hushed tones about guaranteed returns and smart money. The promoter's photographer called for the face-off. As Malik and Tyler stood chest to chest, the challengers' act grew more frenzied. "Tomorrow night, boy," Tyler hissed, quiet enough that only Malik and the hidden mic could hear. "I'm gonna make you wish you stayed in your hood." Malik met his eyes steadily. "You still don't understand what this is about, do you?" "Oh, I understand plenty." Tyler's smile turned ugly. "I understand you're about to learn your place." "No," Malik said softly. "Tomorrow, truth walks out of that cage." Something in his tone made Tyler's smile falter slightly. Behind them, Devlin wrapped up his phone call. "Don't worry about the commission. Heller's got more riding on this than anyone. The fix is solid." The photographers called for one last shot. As the flashes popped, Lorraine caught Malik's eye and mouthed silently, "We got him." Devlin approached the fighters, his face gleaming with fake concern. "Now, boys, let's keep this clean. We want a good, fair fight tomorrow." He laughed nervously as he said it, the sound hollow in the crowded room. Malik noticed a thin sheen of sweat on the promoter's upper lip. Aunt Evie stepped forward, her Bible still clutched tight. "Oh, it'll be fair, all right. The Lord always makes sure of that." The room started to clear out, reporters hurrying to file their stories. Tyler's entourage led him away, still shouting insults over his shoulder. But they sounded weaker now, like air leaking from a punctured tire. Malik gathered his shirt and began to dress. The microphone had captured everything, every threat, every slur, and, most importantly, every incriminating word from Devlin's phone call. "You okay?" Lorraine asked quietly as she passed by, pretending to check her notes. Malik nodded once. He could feel the weight of tomorrow pressing down, but it felt different now. The truth had mass of its own. Aunt Evie touched his arm gently. "Remember what your daddy used to say about men who talk too much? They're usually trying to convince themselves," Malik replied, a small smile touching his lips. The last cameras were being packed away. Devlin stood by the exit, still making calls, his voice getting more agitated with each one. He kept glancing at Malik, then looking away quickly. "Your boys' cast coming off soon?" Lorraine asked as they walked toward the door. "Next week," Malik said. "Doctor says it healed clean." "Just like this will," Aunt Evie added firmly. "Clean breaks heal strongest." They stepped out into the afternoon sun, leaving Devlin and his nervous laughter behind. The truth was recorded, transmitted, and safely stored. Tomorrow would bring its own battle, but today's victory was already won, captured in crystal-clear audio, one damning word at a time. The arena lights dimmed as gospel music filled the space. A remixed version of "Wade in the Water" pulsed through the speakers, its deep bass matching the rhythm of Malik's steady walk toward the cage. Unlike Tyler's earlier entrance with its pyrotechnics and dancers, Malik moved with quiet purpose. In the front row, Aunt Evie sat with a cluster of church elders, their heads bowed in silent prayer. Their lips moved in unison, generations of faith concentrated into whispered words. Jamal watched from beside them, his cast decorated with messages from the gym kids. Lorraine positioned herself near the commission's technical area, her press badge allowing her close access to the replay screens. Her earpiece connected her directly to Sandra Ruiz, who monitored the feed from her office downtown. The cage door clanged shut. Malik rolled his shoulders, the familiar smell of liniment and canvas bringing focus. Across the octagon, Tyler bounced from foot to foot, his face twisted in a sneer. Referee Heller gave his final instructions, his eyes darting nervously toward Devlin at ringside. "Touch gloves, gentlemen," Heller commanded. Tyler spat on the canvas instead. "Time to go back to the hood, boy." The bell rang. Tyler exploded forward with a wild combination, punches whistling past Malik's head. The crowd roared as Tyler pressed forward, but Malik stayed composed. When Tyler overcommitted to a right hand, Malik stepped in close, securing a tight body lock. "Work clean," Heller warned, though Malik's technique was textbook. Malik drove Tyler into the fence, delivering precise knees to the thighs and body. Each impact drew a grunt from Tyler, whose initial fury began to fade under the methodical assault. Malik maintained pressure, using his wrestling to wear Tyler down. "Stand them up!" Devlin shouted from ringside, but the position was clearly legitimate. Blood began trickling from Tyler's nose after a particularly sharp knee. Malik transitioned smoothly to a trip, putting Tyler on his back. From top position, Malik stayed heavy, punishing Tyler with short elbows while maintaining control. The first round ended with Tyler breathing hard, his early bravado replaced by growing concern. In his corner, Devlin gestured frantically while shouting instructions, but Tyler's eyes held a new wariness. "He's breaking," Aunt Evie whispered to Jamal. "Pride always breaks first." Round 2 opened with Tyler trying to create space, circling away rather than rushing in. But his footwork was sloppy now, his movement less certain. Malik cut off the cage methodically, forcing Tyler to engage. In an exchange, Tyler landed a hard right hook that snapped Malik's head back. The crowd gasped, but Malik absorbed the shot, his training taking over. As Tyler charged in to follow up, Malik changed levels perfectly, driving through for a clean double-leg takedown. "Atlas! Atlas! Atlas!" The chant started in the upper deck and spread quickly. From top position, Malik showed his technical superiority. He passed Tyler's guard with practiced ease, establishing mount position. Tyler bucked desperately, but Malik stayed glued to him, landing punishing shots to the body and head. At ringside, Devlin's face had gone pale. He fumbled with his phone, typing frantically. Referee Heller saw the message but hesitated, knowing too many eyes were watching. The punishment Malik delivered was completely legal, each strike thrown with surgical precision. "Beautiful work," Lorraine murmured into her mic, knowing Sandra was watching every moment. "Clean as church on Sunday." Tyler's face was now marked up, blood flowing from both his nose and a cut near his eye. His attempts to escape grew weaker as Malik maintained relentless pressure. The difference in skill was becoming embarrassingly clear. "Stand them up!" Devlin screamed again, his voice cracking. "Check that position." But Heller couldn't find any justification to intervene. Malik's top control was masterful, his ground strikes perfectly placed. The crowd's chanting grew louder, drowning out Devlin's increasingly desperate shouts. "That's it, baby," Aunt Evie called out, her Bible open in her lap. "Show him what dignity looks like." The round continued with Malik in complete control. Tyler's corner looked worried, their fighter's aura of invincibility crumbling under Malik's methodical assault. The difference between Tyler's social media persona and the reality in the cage was stark. Lorraine caught Sandra's signal through her earpiece. Everything was being documented. Devlin's frantic messages, Heller's hesitation, the clear legitimacy of Malik's dominance. The truth was being recorded in real time, both in video and in the growing realization spreading through the arena. As the second round drew to a close, Tyler was saved by the bell. He struggled to his feet, his face swollen, the mock chain long since discarded. Malik walked calmly to his corner, where Aunt Evie's nephew waited with water and wisdom. "See how quiet he's got?" the cornerman whispered as he wiped Malik's face. "That's fear replacing foolishness." Devlin paced anxiously behind Tyler's corner, still typing on his phone. But Heller stood stoically in the center of the cage, his earlier willingness to intervene apparently replaced by a new understanding of what was at stake. Lorraine touched her earpiece, confirming with Sandra that everything was being preserved. The evidence was clear, not just of the fight's legitimacy, but of all the attempted manipulation leading up to it. The crowd continued their chant as the fighters prepared for round 3. 2 rounds of technical dominance had transformed the audience from spectators into witnesses. They had come expecting a spectacle but were instead seeing something deeper: the systematic dismantling of both a fighter and the corrupt system that enabled him. The 3rd round opened with tension crackling through the arena. Both men bore the marks of battle, Tyler's face swollen and bloody, Malik's eye beginning to darken from that earlier right hook. The fighters circled each other, their breathing heavy in the charged atmosphere. Malik noticed a change in Tyler's movement. The swagger was gone, replaced by something more desperate. Tyler's eyes darted between Malik and his own corner, where Devlin's frantic gestures had become increasingly agitated. "Fight smart now!" Aunt Evie called from ringside, her voice carrying over the crowd. "Stay righteous!" Tyler lunged forward with a wild combination. Malik slipped the punches, his head movement crisp despite the fatigue. The technical gap between them had become a canyon. Tyler's raw aggression no match for Malik's years of disciplined training. "You ain't nothing," Tyler spat through bloody teeth, trying to recapture his earlier bravado. But the words sounded hollow now, echoing with desperation rather than dominance. They exchanged in the center, Malik's jab finding its mark repeatedly. Tyler's face reddened with each impact, his frustration building visibly. When Malik slipped another wild swing, Tyler suddenly drove forward and slammed his forehead directly into Malik's face. The illegal headbutt drew gasps from the crowd. Blood trickled from a fresh cut above Malik's eye. But before Malik could even react, referee Heller stepped between them, pointing a warning finger at Malik. "Watch the contact," Heller barked. "Final warning." The arena erupted in boos. Even casual fans could see the obvious foul had come from Tyler. Lorraine's camera caught Devlin nodding approvingly at Heller's call, while Sandra Ruiz made rapid notes in her office downtown. But Malik's response surprised everyone. He smiled, blood streaming down his face, and leaned in close to Tyler. "You just told everyone who you are," he said softly, but the cage mic caught every word. "Now, let me show them who I am." The crowd's energy shifted. They had come expecting entertainment, but were witnessing something deeper. A man refusing to be broken by corruption, answering injustice with skill rather than fury. Malik reset his stance, his movements becoming liquid, purposeful. The years of training under Army combatives instructors, the countless hours drilling with his students, all crystallized into this moment. Tyler, sensing the change, backed toward the fence. "Stand and fight like a man!" Tyler shouted, but his voice cracked. Malik's response was clinical. He launched a picture-perfect jab that snapped Tyler's head back. Before Tyler could recover, a straight right cross followed, crashing into his already damaged nose. Tyler's hands dropped instinctively to protect his face. That's when Malik changed levels, ducking under Tyler's desperate counterswing. The movement was beautiful in its efficiency. No wasted motion, no telegraphing. Just like he taught his students, economy of movement equals precision of power. The finishing left hook seemed to materialize from nowhere. It connected with surgical accuracy just as Tyler tried to circle away. The impact echoed through the arena, a sound like a bat hitting a home run. Tyler's eyes went blank before his body even began to fall. He crumpled to the canvas in sections like a building being demolished and lay motionless. The same silence that had followed their first fight descended briefly over the arena. Malik stepped back immediately. No celebration, no taunting. He simply nodded once, acknowledging the clean finish. But this time, he knew the fight wasn't over. Right on cue, Devlin exploded from his seat, screaming about illegal blows and demanding another reversal. "Check the replay!" Devlin bellowed, his face purple with rage. That was behind the ear. Same cheap shot as last time. The crowd began to stir uneasily, remembering how the first victory had been stolen. But Malik walked calmly to the center of the cage. With deliberate movements, he raised the house microphone, the one Lorraine had carefully planted in his glove wrap during his entrance. His thumb found the play button. The arena's speakers crackled to life with Devlin's own voice from the way in. "Don't worry about the odds. Heller's ours. We'll get the call we want, just like last time. The fix is in." The sound quality was perfect, every damning word crystal clear. The arena erupted in shock and outrage. Devlin's face drained of all color as his own words echoed back at him. He looked wildly toward the exits, but Sandra Ruiz was already storming toward the cage with venue security in tow. "Richard Devlin!" Sandra's voice cut through the chaos. "The commission needs to speak with you. Now." Heller backed away from the scene, trying to become invisible. But there was nowhere to hide. Not from the cameras, not from the truth, not from justice that had finally caught up to them all. Tyler was being helped to his feet by the medical team, consciousness returning along with the realization that his career was imploding. The manufactured image, the protected record, the racist taunts used to sell tickets, it was all crumbling under the weight of recorded truth. Aunt Evie stood in her seat, tears streaming down her face as she applauded. Around her, the crowd's reaction transformed from shock to understanding to full-throated approval. They had witnessed not just a knockout, but the exposure of corruption that had festered too long in the sport. Malik remained in the center of the cage, still composed, still dignified. Blood mixed with sweat on his face, but his eyes were clear and focused. He had won not just with his fists, but with truth as his strongest weapon. 2 weeks after the explosive rematch, cameras crowded the courthouse steps. The morning sun cast long shadows across the gathered reporters, officials, and community members. Sandra Ruiz approached the bank of microphones, her professional demeanor unable to fully mask her satisfaction. "After thorough investigation and irrefutable evidence," Sandra began, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd, "the State Athletic Commission has voted unanimously to impose a lifetime ban on promoter Richard Devlin for match-fixing, corruption, and endangering fighter safety." Flashbulbs erupted. In the front row, Aunt Evie squeezed Malik's hand. Jamal, his wrist healing but still in a light brace, stood tall beside them. "Furthermore," Sandra continued, "fighter Tyler Viper Kane has been suspended indefinitely for his role in orchestrating the assault on minor Jamal Rivers. Criminal charges in that matter are being handled separately by the district attorney's office." Lorraine Park's camera focused on Tyler's lawyer trying to slip away through the crowd. The footage would make a powerful addition to her documentary series, 10 Seconds of Truth. "The commission has officially certified Malik Johnson's technical knockout victory." Sandra's voice strengthened. "And in light of the betting fraud uncovered, his purse will be doubled through restitution payments." A cheer went up from the gathered crowd. Several of Malik's young students started chanting, "Atlas! Atlas!" until their parents quietly settled them down. But perhaps, most significantly, Sandra paused, allowing the moment to build. "The seized assets from Mr. Devlin's illegal enterprises will be used to establish a new community center in our city's underserved East Side. At the request of Mr. Johnson, it will be named the Rivers Community Center." Jamal's eyes widened in surprise. He looked at Malik, who simply nodded with a small smile. Aunt Evie wrapped her arm around the teenager's shoulders as he fought back tears. "This facility," Sandra explained, "will provide free athletic training, academic tutoring, and mentorship programs to at-risk youth. Construction begins next month, with completion expected by year's end." After the formal statements, Malik stepped to the microphones. He looked different now, More relaxed, the weight of injustice lifted from his shoulders. "Fighting was never about violence for me," he said quietly, the crowd straining to hear his measured words. "It was about discipline, respect, and standing up when life tries to knock you down. This center will teach those same lessons to kids who need them most." Lorraine's camera caught Aunt Evie dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief as Malik continued. "I'm also announcing my retirement from competitive fighting today," he said. "My last bout proved what needed proving. Now it's time to focus on the next generation." Questions erupted from the reporters, but Malik raised his hand for silence. "Someone wise once told me that true victory isn't about who falls. It's about who helps others stand back up. That's what this center will do. That's what matters." The press conference shifted to the construction site, where architectural renderings showed a modern facility rising from what had been an abandoned warehouse. Aunt Evie, already taking charge of the renovation oversight, pointed out features to the gathered officials. "The main training floor will have proper ventilation," she insisted, tapping the blueprints. "These kids deserve better than what Malik had starting out. And we'll need good lighting for the study areas. Education comes first." Lorraine moved through the crowd, gathering final interviews for her documentary. Her microphone caught snippets of conversation. Community elders planning volunteer programs, parents discussing after-school possibilities, kids excitedly comparing the rendering to their current training space. "It's like a circle closing," one of Malik's original students told her camera. "Coach taught us to fight with honor. Now we get to pass that on." The construction foreman reviewed timeline details with Aunt Evie, who had somehow produced a detailed spreadsheet of project milestones. Her organizational skills, honed through years of managing both church choir and gym finances, were already proving invaluable. "We'll start with the foundation next week," the foreman explained. "Should have the frame up within a month." Jamal walked the perimeter of the site, his young students trailing behind him like ducklings. Though his wrist was still healing, he had already started assistant teaching, showing a natural talent for connecting with the younger kids. "See that space there?" He pointed to an area on the rendering. "That's going to be our new heavy bag section. Coach says we can even get speed bags installed." Near the end of the event, Malik quietly stepped away from the crowd. He removed his worn competition gloves from his gym bag, the same ones he'd worn in both fights with Tyler. With careful movements, he mounted them on a section of wall that would become the center's main entrance. Lorraine's camera followed him, catching the moment in perfect morning light. She had been documenting this story since that first controversial knockout, and now she was capturing its resolution. "These gloves," Malik explained softly to her lens, "represent both injustice and justice, both hatred and hope. They remind us that the fight for what's right doesn't end with one victory. It continues through every life we touch, every kid we teach, every day we refuse to back down from what's right." The morning sun strengthened, filtering through the old warehouse windows that would soon be replaced. On a temporary mat laid out for the occasion, Jamal was already working with several young students, showing them proper stance and footwork. His wrist brace didn't seem to slow him down at all. Malik watched them train, coffee cup warming his hands, a quiet smile on his face. Lorraine's camera caught his expression as she recorded her final narration. "Justice doesn't ring a bell. It rings out forever." I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have hand-picked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.